Welcome back to Movies TV Man. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Man, and welcome to Wednesday's edition of the Doctor Who Daily. It's time to move past Chris Chibnal and the Chibnal era. I'm bored now. It's an irrelevant era. Stop getting mad about it on social media. It's boring. We know what it is. We know what it isn't. We know it's not fit for purpose. We know it's terrible, bland and uninteresting. And he couldn't even get an event series right, because his event series was like, we're just going to throw stuff at you, right? And that's it. It's time to move away from it. It is irrelevant. What I will say about the Timeless Child thing is that I thought it was kind of intriguing and kind of interesting. Pre-Hartnell doctors, isn't that interesting? Meeting doctors we haven't met before. Wow. But I know he's, not he, but the Doctor is going to keep on regenerating into different people and then quickly changing again, so those people are irrelevant, right? But what you could have done, right, in season 13, you could have not dealt with present day Doctor Who. You could have actually done a whole series focusing on different incarnations of the Doctor. You could have spent a whole season on explaining your ethos of the Timeless Child and finding out more about the Doctor that we don't know. You could have expanded on it, but you can't expand on it, can you, Chris? Because you don't actually know anything about the Timeless Child, because you thought, oh, I know, I'll do pre-Hartnell doctors, so I can show so many different cultures, different minorities as the Doctor, to put right what went wrong in the 60s, 70s and 80s with a lack of representation and inclusion. That's the only reason you did the Timeless Child for. You didn't have an idea. It's like your fugitive Doctor. You don't really have an idea on the kind of adventures that Doctor's had, because a clever man would have done a spin-off. Yes, a fugitive Doctor spin-off. Because, let's be honest, you could have done that. You could have actually been producing a Doctor Who show and a fugitive Doctor spin-off, right, in your final run. It would have been amazing, and it would have been more memorable for you. It would have been ambitious. You have the pull at the BBC to do that, Chris. And you could have expanded on the fugitive Doctor. And as I say, Doctor Who Flux, instead of being Doctor Who Flux, it still could have been an event series, but it could have been an event series expanding on the Timeless Child, a concept I found fascinating, something I was never triggered about. But you were never interested in that, were you, Chris? And that's the problem. The issue for me isn't the actual Timeless Child, isn't that there's pre-Hartnell doctors, that it was just a thing you threw at us. It was just all about shock and social media engagement, because people, even when you hate on a show like Doctor Who, they like it. They want you, because you're talking about it right now. There's anti-Chibnal people, pro-Chibnal people constantly arguing on social media. They love this type of engagement. It's cheap and free fucking marketing, right? That's all it is. And you're hashtagging Doctor Who. Actually, social media engagement these days and hashtagging a show is actually more valuable than actually watching a show. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting, everyone? Isn't that crazy in the kind of world that we live in? So basically, instead of, expanding on his Timeless Child thesis and explaining it, all it is mystery box, mystery box, mystery box. So I think we now know from the finale that he's going to spend about 5 minutes kind of at the end of his final ever episode at the end of next year. She's going to open the fob watch. A few memories are going to come out. A few things are going to be explained. And that will be that. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if she's actually the Timeless Child, right? We don't know. Yeah, I know, Tek Tae-yoon told us, so yeah, let's believe Tek Tae-yoon, right? No, I still don't believe she's the Timeless Child. Not because I don't want her to be the Timeless Child, because it's irrelevant to me. None of this matters. Since I heard Russell's coming back, it doesn't matter to me. It's irrelevant. Either one of two things are going to happen when Russell comes back. Either he's going to bend the knee to, extreme left entertainment and, double down on the bullshit we've seen in the past few years, or Now that he has a stranglehold on the actual franchise and IP, and he can do what the fuck he wants, and it doesn't matter if I don't like it or you don't like it or whoever, he'll actually focus on making great, entertaining Doctor Who. And I don't think there's a guarantee here either way, by the way. I'm still quite nervous about the new Russell T Davies era, because none of us know what's actually happening here. And I still think we're missing something. We're missing, you know, some piece of information that's going to be thrown at us, and maybe we may not be happy about it. I don't know. I think there's a lot more to know about this so-called show-run Russell T Davies era. It wouldn't surprise me if he writes the 60th anniversary special, then brings his own showrunner for new Doctor Who. Maybe that's what he'll do. We'll have to wait and see. There's certainly something going on here, and I think there will be spin-off shows, and he'll bring in other showrunners for that as well. So ultimately, he could become like a J.J. Abrams that does more producing than writing. And I said it about J.J. Abrams. If you go back and watch Lost, if you go back and watch Alias or Felicity, very talented writer, but then he became a business person. Now, to be fair to Russell, he writes. That's his passion, he writes. And I hope he doesn't go that way. And I hope he's hands-on with Doctor Who and season 14 and all of that, because we need him. We need his romantic storytelling. And as I said before, when I talk about romance from Russell T Davies, it's not that. It's the romantic way he writes stories. It's like watching Star Wars: A New Hope. That's what I said about his Doctor Who. His Doctor Who is Star Wars: A New Hope. It's romantic. It's, you know, it's a bit Flash Gordon-y. But it's got everything, and it's still Doctor Who. And someone, was it Harbo Holmes, who's got his own YouTube channel, was saying people used to hate Russell T Davies. He got death threats, blah, 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 blah. Listen, I know some classic Who fans were offended by Russell's take of the revival, but the Russell T Davies era had a more celebratory vibe. You can't please everyone, Harbo, but at the end of the day, it was a more celebratory vibe, right? And most people agreed that this was the way to go. It worked. So it wasn't the Doctor Who that I saw with Peter Davison. My first kind of, you know, way into Doctor Who was Peter Davison. That's how I first was introduced to Doctor Who. It's not that Doctor, but I've got a brain right. I know I live in the 21st century, and I can't expect Doctor Who to be what it was in the 80s. Now, that's dumb. Just like I don't expect Superman to be the Christopher Reeve Superman in 2021. Big Superman fan. If I want to watch that kind of Superman, I've got the bloody 4K Blu-rays, right? It's fine. So I don't need people to repeat what I grew up with. What I need them to do is focus on making great Doctor Who and entertaining Doctor Who. I don't have an issue with the Chibnal era because it's not the 80s Doctor Who that I watched. That's not my fucking problem. My problem is it's creatively bankrupt and it's lazy. It's creatively lazy. Chris Chibnall's era is creatively lazy. I'm not going to go back to it. I've still bought the Blu-rays and all that, and the, you know, and it's all it's a collection to me. I love Doctor Who and I'm collecting it. Maybe one day I will go back to it. I mean, I probably will have to do a binge before the 60th anniversary, and I will go through that shit. And it's not all bad. There are little things that are interesting. Some of the music we've had from, I forgot his name now, the composer's been pretty good since season 12, by the way. Some really good music. So that's something positive. But listen, the Chibnall era isn't going to be something you remember. Now, there are people out there who love it, and that's good. And it's going to be part of your childhood, and it's great. Something tells me that you're going to not be Doctor Who fans when you hear what Russell T Davies is planning for Doctor Who, but that's fine. Whoever stays, stays. But I think Doctor Who is going to be a lot more popular with the mainstream audience. And that's something we must remember about RTD. He brought in a new generational audience to Doctor Who. It's like what George Lucas did with The Phantom Menace. There's a lot of adults now, young adults now, who went to see The Phantom Menace as children and don't hate the prequels, loved them, actually liked Jar Jar Binks as kids, sat there as kids and thought, wow, we love Jar Jar. That was the reason he did it, to introduce a new generation to Star Wars, and it worked. That's what a genius George Lucas is, and that's just as equally of a genius of what Russell T Davies is. He actually made it fit to watch for families, adults, and die-hard Doctor Who fans. And those die-hard Doctor Who fans may tell you, it's not what it was, it's not like what we watched. But there's elements that you like, right? And it's still Doctor Who. And again, you've got to accept that we are in the 21st century. So it's never going to be how we deem it should be. Because each era needs to move on, I'm afraid. So I'm very comfortable about the RTD era. It did what it had to do to make Doctor Who popular. And it went in the direction it should have went in. Elements of the Moffat era are great. It's an inconsistent era. And as I say, in terms of Chris Chibnall, all I'm going to say is he's a lazy storyteller. That's it. My issues are not with the gender of the Doctor. Couldn't give a shit. My issues are not with the people he's cast as companions. Really good, solid actors who have been betrayed creatively. Everyone's been betrayed creatively by Chris Chibnall. And listen to me. Every one of those actors who comes out and says how great he is can't stand what he's actually done to them as artists creatively. So as I said on the top of the show, it's time to move on from the Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who. This has been the Doctor Who Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again tomorrow with even more Doctor Who Daily. Until then, goodbye.